So I saw Superman. What did I think? What did you guys think? That's what I want to know. But what I thought. So there's a lot of discourse that's been going around this film. A lot of discourse. It kind of seems to be split. I don't want to call it saying 50-50. I would say most people are loving this movie. I would say most people, on average, are loving this movie. But there are a couple people who aren't liking it. And I've seen a couple of the negative reviews. And so I went into the movie theater, and I have to be honest, I thought this movie was great. I had a couple of problems with this movie throughout the film. However, I felt that a lot of my criticisms with the film in the first half were cleared out, or at the very least done a bit better in the second half. Now, I do want to preface this by saying this. I think, because I've heard a lot of people say that this movie's a mess, I just want to say right now, if you think this movie is a mess, then I implore you to please pick up a comic book. Because everyone was complaining about this movie of like, oh, it's not focused. Like, oh, it's you're constantly breaking away to this stuff happening over here, and oh, these heroes are getting into this problem here, and oh man, this problem's happening here. Wow. It's almost like it's a comic book movie, because that's how it works in a comic book. And I know what you're thinking. Well, if it works in a comic book, that doesn't mean it should translate into a movie. Well, I think it should if you're making a comic book movie, right? If we were adapting a comic book into a, say, like maybe Tarantino, Nolan, Snyder style, we're having a different conversation about the movie we're going to make. But if we're talking straight up comic book movie, I don't think we have the right to say that, well, if it flows this way in a comic book, it doesn't work by flowing this way in a movie. Well, I don't know how you're able to even hold that opinion. I don't know what credentials you have. I don't know what film degrees you have to really even hold the opinion that a comic book film should not reflect a comic book. I find that strange. But anyways, enough with talking about the problems people have with the film. And let me talk about the things I loved about it. So, to tackle off straight off the bat, David Cornsweet was awesome as Superman. Now, that being said, he did kind of piss me off a little bit. And the reason why that was because, and this is what I was saying earlier about how, like, there were, like, things in the first half where I was kind of, like, iffy on, and then they kind of cleared themselves up in the second half. I was not a big fan of how naive Superman was in the first half of the film. And he's still naive through he's pretty naive throughout the entirety of the film. He's a very naive Superman. Very naive. And I didn't like that at first, because I kind of liked it, like, okay, he's a little naive, but, like, they kept, like, every time he was in a conversation with someone, every time, you know, like, when Lois is interviewing him, the answers he gives are all just naive, and at first I didn't like it, but the more I watched the movie, and as it progressed, he became less and less naive throughout the film. Especially towards the end. He was still naive, but he became less so. And I did have to kind of, like, tell myself, like, all right, well, it is 3 years. He's only been Superman 3 years. It's not a very long time. So I can understand why he's still a little naive. I wish he wasn't. But at the very least, this gives him a bit of character development growth for the future. So, like, I'm assuming by the time he hit Justice League, most of that naivety from Clark will be gone. Speaking of Clark, to transition over from his portrayal of Superman to Clark, I thought he played Clark well, very well. I thought he played Clark and Superman very well. Because here's the problem is, anyone can play, it's kind of like the Batman Bruce Wayne kind of thing. Which is so funny to me is when you talk about casting Batman, everyone goes crazy and they start talking about, like, okay, he can do Batman, but can he do Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne is so challenging. Bruce Wayne is so hard. Bruce Wayne is so difficult. But when they cast Superman, You ever notice that nobody ever really cares about Clark Kent? You ever notice that? Like, when we're talking about casting Batman, everybody freaks out because they're like, oh, but Bruce Wayne's such a complicated character. Can they play Bruce Wayne? But, like, Clark Kent is also complicated. Like, you're literally having to do... I mean, Superman and Batman are very similar in their secret identities. And the fact that they're very much so the polar opposite of their alter egos, right? Superman, you've got this confident guy who saves the day, and he's a superhero. And then you got Clark Kent, who's a reporter at the Daily Planet. And, he just lives his life, and he's clumsy. And, Clark Kent's his performance, I think. Same as Batman, but I digress. I thought his Clark portrayal was great. I thought I liked his. Here's the thing: is Clark is almost two characters, because there's Clark in the Daily Bugle, in the Daily Planet. There's Clark in the Daily Planet, and then there's Clark at home with his parents or in Lois's apartment. You know what I mean? Like, there's Clark behind closed doors, who's like Superman, but also still Clark, right? He's got that humanness to him. I loved that a lot. Speaking of Lois, Rachel Brosnahan did exactly what I said she was going to do. She stole the show. She was the best part about the movie, hands down. My favorite stories involving Lois Lane are the ones where she is a badass, where she don't give a crap. She don't care if she's fixing to catch a plane to go to Apocalypse and face down Darkseid. If that's where the story is, that's where she is. And I loved it so much because there's a scene, it literally happens in this movie, where Rachel Brosnahan as Lois is with Mr. Terrific, and they go to this like place where there's like a timeline that's like splitting and like everything is going to crap. And she's right there along for the ride. She's right there, ready to get down and dirty. One wrong misstep and she could fall and cease to exist. And there she is. She's right there along for the ride. Love that, Lois. I thought Jimmy was great. Jimmy didn't have a lot of scenes in this, but I mean, for crying out loud, we're talking about a perfect casted Jimmy. Like, this guy is Jimmy Olsen. Like, I don't think you can find another guy who's looking more like Jimmy Olsen than this guy. Like, that's what's crazy about this cast, is this cast, in my opinion, is so close to perfect. Like, the only people I could see were like, all right, maybe there is a better Lex Luthor out there. Like, I loved Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, don't get me wrong. In fact, I would say this is my favorite Lex Luthor we've ever gotten so far, because he's so unbelievably petty. This Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, was so unbelievably petty. And that, in my opinion, is one of the core principles of Lex Luthor, right? He's very petty. He's the utmost petty. He's a very petty man. So the fact that they showed him being petty in this was fantastic. To go back to Mr. Terrific, because I talked about him a little bit earlier, I thought Mr. Terrific was great. Wished we got a little bit more time with him. I kind of like his personality and where it was in this movie. It was perfect because Superman is a hero, and he's the naive guy. Then you've got Green Lantern, who's the asshole. Then you've got Hot Girl, who's kind of super sassy, right? And then you got Mr. Terrific, who's just kind of... You might be telling me about this information that you might think is beneficial or helpful, but I'm telling you right now it's not, and so I'm telling you right now, stop talking to me. That was Mr. Terrific's like aura throughout the whole film, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a perfect thing to add to the mix. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was the perfect seasoning to complete the Justice Gang dish. I thought I thought Guy Gardner was fantastic. In fact, Nathan Fillion was so good. He had one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. And it's when there's that kid in the Middle East, and he's like raising up the Superman flag, and they were cutting back and forth between that, so it's been a long time, and they don't think he's coming. And then Green Lantern shows up, and he's like, "Sorry, kid, Superman's not going to be available, so you guys got an upgrade." I was like, yeah, that's such a guy thing to say. That's such a Guy Gardner thing to say, dude. Like, you just got an upgrade because I'm here. So good. I thought Hot Girl was awesome. She didn't get much screen time, but I'm really excited to see where her character goes. Metamorpho, again, he wasn't on the screen very much, but I thought he was pretty cool. There's a couple of the villains as well outside of Lex. They're mostly forgettable. I would put them in the same area as the villains in Man of Steel that weren't Zod. You know what I mean? They were pretty forgettable. Not to say that they weren't cool. Like, I thought the Nanites lady was pretty cool. Even though I kind of felt like outside... Again, like, she felt to me, to Lex, the exact same the way that one girl felt like to Zod in Man of Steel. It's like, okay, in Man of Steel, I know why Zod is here. I know Zod's plan. Who is this girl? His goon? Okay, I guess she's just along for the ride, and that's her story. No backstory, no nothing. Just along for the ride. And that was this character, too. The girl with the nanites. She was just a character who didn't really have a crazy backstory outside of a throwaway line of how he gave her nanites, and it didn't really have, she just was kind of there along for the ride, which I don't have a problem with that, but it just kind of, she just was forgettable. And same with Ultraman. Even Ultraman I felt was kind of forgettable. Because he's kind of hidden most of the film. He's not really even the main threat. He's just kind of like and that's what I love about this, is that Lex is always seen as the threat. Even though Lex is, compared to Superman, powerless, obviously he's not as strong, all X, Y, and Z. So really, Ultraman should be the big threat, should be the big antithesis, but it's not. It's still, at least as far as the way that the story was told narratively, your point of view, your direction, your line of sight's always still going to be on Lex as being, he's the villain here. So even though we see Superman fight Ultraman, and Ultraman still has a lot of scenes, it definitely just really hammers home that this guy, Ultraman, is not the threat here. He's a pawn. He's a tool. He's, you know what I mean? And to talk about the reveal, I kind of thought that was the case. I'd heard some murmurings. I'm kind of cool with it, like the Bizarro Superman idea. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's, because they could have gone either two routes with it. Either it was going to be Bizarro and they're just calling him Ultraman, or if it's an actual Ultraman from another universe, which I thought what they were going with, because he started talking about how he created a pocket universe and all this and that. So I thought maybe Lex was toying with universal travel. So I thought maybe Ultraman might have been there, but it was just another Clark clone, which is fine. Again, fine with that. Thought that was good. I'm trying to think of what else. Ma and Pa Kent. I really enjoyed their portrayal. I don't know if they're my favorite Ma and Pa Kent, but I will say I don't know if I've ever had a favorite Ma and Pa Kent. So I guess if I had to have one, it might be the folks from this film. Even though the thing about them is they're less Ma and Pa Kent and more real Ma and Pa Kent, if you kind of get what I mean. They're less comic booky and more real. Meanwhile, everything else is more real. I feel like that was a perfect thing to do in James Gunn's like purview, from like how he sets up this world of like making everything really, really comic booky, but it's okay if there's a couple of characters here and there that are just real people, like Ma and Pa Kent. Right? So I appreciated that a lot. Crypto, I actually didn't like a lot throughout a lot of the film. And when I say things like I didn't like, I'm not saying that to detract from this film's score or to detract from my overall enjoyment of the film or just from the film's quality. Just because I don't like Crypto or I didn't like the scenes with Crypto doesn't mean that it was bad or that it was poorly written or anything like that. It's just that I just didn't really care for the scenes that were there with Crypto. Yeah, I just didn't really care for them. I just thought that Crypto was kind of more annoying than anything. I thought Crypto was going to be a lot more helpful than he was, and Crypto was just kind of very almost annoyingly not helpful. So that was frustrating. Like, I thought that, like, when Lex comes to rough up the Fortress of Solitude, like, I didn't think Crypto was going to save the day, but I thought Crypto was going to do more than Crypto did. So hopefully Crypto goes somewhere else. As far as development wise, we get to see more with Crypto. I really loved this movie. I really don't know what much else to say. I really had a great time with this film. Now, how do I feel about this film stacked compared to Man of Steel? I will say right now, I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think that Superman and Man of Steel, despite being about the same exact characters and the same exact story, I think they are two very different films. I really don't think it's even fair to compare them in the slightest. I love Man of Steel and I love Superman. I'm still thinking about which one I like better, and I'm not sure which one I do. I think if I'm going to play it safe, I would say this movie. I would say Superman 2025. But Man of Steel has its own... it is a very different Superman story. It's almost a 180. So for everyone comparing the two, look, they're both great, in my opinion. I know a lot of people hate Man of Steel, but in my opinion, they're both great. They both have their ups and downs. They both have their pullbacks and pull forwards and et cetera and so forth. Like, I still think that the fight scenes in Man of Steel blow this one out of the water. But again, that is not a fair comparison. Like, I'm even going to come out right now and say that that's not fair to compare. Because Man of Steel, I mean, first of all, you got Zack Snyder in charge. But second of all, it was just shot entirely differently. This movie was shot completely differently, too. This was kind of more like grandiose. This was kind of more... Again, this was also year 3 Superman, too. This was shot way more grandiose. Way more... Superman was flying all the time. Well, I guess he was flying all the time, Man of Steel, too. But I don't know. I thought the fights in Man of Steel were more, like, brutal. But again, that's why I say it's not a fair comparison, because this movie's not meant to be a brutal film. But anyways, I'm tired of comparing those two. Everyone's been comparing them enough as it is. But what did you guys think of Superman? Leave your comments down in the description box down below. Let me know what you guys thought, because I really enjoyed this film. And let me know just because I'm curious. Let me know what you guys think about this film stacked up to Man of Steel. And when I say that, I don't mean like what the online consensus is around Man of Steel, and like, yes, people think it's a bad movie. I would just be honest. Just be honest, and just be a person who saw both movies and just give your honest opinion. You know, like what you actually think. But anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Thanks so much to Prince Tendley, Ryan Wilkins, and Kame Senin for all becoming members. If you would also like to become a member, on my channel there exists multiple different tier levels, and you can pick out which one is best for you.